I think for me, it was my aunt. I grew up in Brownsville Projects, and my aunt was living in East New York. But she knew all the politicians. She just really lived just this really good life. You know, she had a house. We lived in a project. She had a house in East New York. So I'm thinking, wow, okay, she has a house, and we would all go over to her house, and we're thinking, wow, my aunt is really, she's like an anchor, like in our family. She knows literally, like every politician, everything that's happening in New York City, she knows. She lives in East New York. I lived in Brownsville Projects. I related to who was right next to me, right? So it was her. And I just love the way she lived, you know, and she still lives, you know, I sound like she's gone. And I still, you know, I just talked to her last week, and I still talk to her about business, about what I'm doing. And she gives me advice, and more than anything, she sets me up sometimes with meetings with people that she knows, right? But she has the confidence in me to know that I can go in and deliver and won't embarrass her, right? But also my mother. My mother doesn't have a college degree or anything like that, and I was just telling my son the other day, what she has is common sense. Sometimes I go to my mother's house and we just talk, and I'll tell her what I'm doing with business, and I mean, mind you, we're dealing with Fortune 500 companies, but I'm talking to my mother, right, who's 85 years old, but she has common sense, so I'll talk to her about some things, and if it doesn't make sense to her, then I won't do it. Because that's what she has, and I don't forget that. She has that common sense, and she doesn't understand the business that I'm doing, but she has common sense. And so that the mix of common sense and business, that's really powerful. So sometimes you'll look at your parent and think, oh, they don't know what they're doing. But if that common sense really trumps a lot, all right? And that's something that you really should never really forget. Because if somebody, you know, and I tell people all the time, and I'm not, you know, ashamed, I get a lot of my ideas from my mother and from my wife, you know, because I'll pass things through them and say, hey, how does this sound? Or does this make sense? I may not tell them everything, but if it doesn't make sense to them, then I scratch it right away. I say, oh, I'm not doing that. If you have to think about it, I'm not doing it. I figure something else out. But that's, you know, so your inspiration really is going to be closest to you. And you may not really realize it right now, but you may realize it later, who that inspiration might be for you.
All right, wait a minute. Okay, here we go. So, still not working, but here we go. So, great stories. Thank you, gentlemen. So, we know here we're dealing with high school seniors and juniors. And you know? Oh, okay. All right. But we know growing up and going through high school, I know it has been different than it is now for them. And what I want you guys to share briefly is, how was your high school life as a senior, just throughout high school? Because we just talked about inspiration and what inspired you. Who inspired you growing up, but I think I want them to hear, how was your high school life like? Because what they're experiencing now is not what we experienced when we were in high school. And it's a completely, right now it's like two different dichotomies. So if you can, just expound on that a little bit, what your high school life was about. Anybody? You want to start running this?
All right. For me, I guess I got to read. Say it again?
Yeah, just use that
one. Okay, there we go.
There you go.
All right. First, I have to say, during my high school life, my mother was actually very influential in a lot of the things that I did. And she inspired and instilled in me to seek out mentorship. And that was one of the things, I know we're probably going to talk about more as well, but that was one of the things that got me inspired through my basketball coaches, through different men that she actually helped put in my life that showed me how to grow and become a man. But in high school, you know, we didn't have cell phones, you know, so when I'm trying to look up for my sneakers and trying to find the new kicks that I wanted to get, I'm in the back of the class with the East Bay magazine inside of my book, and that's what kept me out of trouble. But I was, in my preparation for college, my mother was instilled in me that you need to become a well-rounded person. The importance in that is that no matter what situation you're in, you need to feel comfortable and confident, and you also need to show people that you're not a one-trick pony. You know, that you're not just good at one thing, that you're a talented person, but you can survive and thrive in any type of setting. And you know, so what that meant was I didn't have time to do anything because I was doing everything. So I was involved in the play, I was involved in music, I played sports every season, so I'm always fundraising for something. You know, I'm walking around school, I see everybody got their backpacks full, you got your 50 pounds of books, then you got your duffel bag for your sports, then I'm carrying around my saxophone because I had to play in the band, and I'm 6'5", just trying to lug, I was a tall kid too, you know. But, you know, and it was that sort of thing where I was always felt different, felt weird, and kind of felt out of place because what I know now why what I went through was important, but then, you know, a lot of people, it was just cool for them to not do anything, to slough off, to slouch, to not work. But my mom was instilling with me a work ethic, that you're always working hard, you're always grinding, you're always pushing yourself and challenging yourself, because then people look for opportunities to put you in places, and then you're prepared whenever a door opens, an opportunity comes up. And that set me up to be able to create my own internship program when I was a senior, because I went to college for architecture, and because I like to draw and design and everything like that. So following my passion into school, that was what set me up to be able to go down that road.
My high school life, honestly, I had the best experience. Outside of being the class clown and having a good time that way, but I was involved in track and field. A little bit of sports, nothing major. I didn't get focused until my junior year, when my mom gave me that talk. Boy, you gotta get serious. So, and I knew what that meant. I was getting older. I had to stop playing around and do exactly that, get focused. I was in several programs that led me to this path, as far as marketing and merchandising. I guess that led me to where I am now. But I had a fantastic high school experience. There were teachers there that supported me. There were outside of the counselors, my history teacher, my science teacher, that gave me that one-on-one, you know, not just to talk about the course itself, but to talk about future and what my future life would be, or that blueprint. Yeah, I mean, I had a great experience, you know, and that's pretty much what I have to say.
Wow. Interestingly, I had a good high school experience, but several significant things happened in high school. These guys are not going to believe this, but in high school I was extremely shy. I was, and I'm going to tell you why. I was always the smallest kid in the class. I had this funny voice. I had a big head and a small body. I grew into my head. And in learning always came easy to me until I got to trigonometry and I got my first T.
Oh, I know how you feel.
Messed me up. Totally messed me up. And my brother, who was not so good a student, took joy that day when I got that D, and I was in the steps carried like my life is over. I got a D in trigonometry. But anyway, so that was the first, one of the first significant things. And then I also joined several organizations, one of which was FBLA, the Future Business Leaders of America. And I left St. John and St. Thomas and went to Indianapolis to my first conference as a sophomore in high school, and walked into an auditorium of 5,000 people.
That's a lot.
And I'm sitting there going, who are these people, where are they from, why am I here, all that stuff. And then I competed nationally in a competition and came in 6th place in the country in job interview. and literally could not walk down to the stage because this young man from the islands who had never seen a crowd like this didn't know what to do, right? So those are some very significant things for me in high school that got me to where I am today.
I like that.
I think for me, high school is what built most of my confidence. I didn't really have a normal high school experience like in New York City because I went to a prep school in Massachusetts, and it was like college. It was boarding school, so it was college for college and high school, and it was so different because I experienced public school and I experienced that. So when I was in class, we called our teachers by their first name. Hey Jim.
Wow.
Hey Sally.
What?
Right? We called our teachers by their first name. When we needed to go to the bathroom, we walked the hell up and walked them to the bathroom. You know what I mean? We didn't,
So it
oh,
was
can
like
I,
college.
Miss Rose,
Yeah.
can I use the bathroom? No, you get up and use the bathroom. So it was a little different for me, and what it did was it created a level playing field. So when you look at the teacher, you felt like you were speaking with your peer. You felt like you were working with them, and it gave you that confidence to be able to go up to an older gentleman and shake his hand and say, hey, my name is Vernon, what's your name? You know, and a lot of people, I think, in that age are scared. And, you know, one takeaway in high school, I've always been a hustler, whether it's selling Jordans or selling sneakers or whatever, you know. So, but what I would do is I went to high school with rich kids, right? So we didn't really, I got a scholarship, so we weren't like wealthy. We did have a great life, but I would ask the kids, so what do your parents do? What do you do, right? So 9 times out of 10, what I was hearing was they were in real estate. They were even though they might be a doctor, but they have 110 units in Massachusetts or New Hampshire or Vermont or New York. So I started to see that theme, and that's what woke me up. And I was like, okay, after high school, I'm gonna get into real estate, and that's gonna be my foundation for what I wanna do. So I think that for me, that's what high school was able to bring, you know.
So now I know why he always butts head with me, because he actually thinks he's equal with me. So that wasn't a good idea sending him to that school. Right? So,
There you go.
all right, for me, with high school, I had a good high school experience, but like I said, since I was 10 years old, I wanted my own business. So I wanted to get out of high school as quick as possible, right? So actually, when I came to St. Francis, I was 16 years old.
What? Goals.
So I did really well in school. Like I skipped in the 7th grade. I went to Bishop Lachlan High School, and they just happened to have this program where in the half of this is my best high school experience, all right? It's my second half of my senior year because we came to St. Francis College. So I wasn't really in high school. I would go to high school to check in, and it was maybe 20 people, 30 people maybe in the city. They came from different schools, from the different cities. It just was this one year they had this program. And so my goal in high school was to get out as quick as possible. So when it's funny because sometimes I use that when I had a company and I sold it, and so I had some downtime and I was coaching some junior high school kids. And they would come in and they would have bad grades, and the teacher would come and say, hey, they can't play. And you know what I would say to the kid? I said, you know what? Some people like to stay in school for 7th grade 2 times. Some people like to be in school more years. I wanted to get out quicker. If you're not doing what you need to do in school, it's gonna just take you longer to get out.
Oh my God.
My goal was, I just gotta get out of here because I gotta get started on getting this business.
And then they complain.
You know, I've been thinking about this thing since I was 10 years old. You know, I'm close to it. So that really was honestly, that was my motivation. I had a good time in high school. And when I was in Bishop Lachlan, I was actually in school in the same class with Mark Jackson. If anybody knows Mark Jackson.
Dwayne Martin, right?
And Dwayne Martin, I went to, people don't really know him too much. He's an actor, but he's not really well known. But, but the idea was I just needed to get out. So that's really my high school experience. And like I said, my second half of the 12th, my senior year, when we would come to this school, we had a ball because you had all of these kids that were really seniors, but were in college. And it was just this crazy experience, and I was able to meet different people. I just started really having a lot of fun because I felt like I'm getting closer to where I need to be.
It's back. All right, awesome stories, awesome stories. Vernon, I wish I had your high school experience. Yeah, because there was no way in heaven or hell I could have done that. My mom sent me back to Jamaica for high school, and there you got whoopings. You got whooped.
You probably needed it.
Oh no, I needed it. And man, I don't even know how I made it through high school, but I did. And even though they didn't allow me to attend the graduation ceremony, but that's a whole other story. Yeah, they banned me. Well, you know what? You want to hear this? Well, listen, I was an interesting kid in high school. I just loved being myself, you know? And, I not to toot my own horn, but I was always a smart kid, and I feel like, I guess for me, some things were like, all right, I mastered it, I get what you're saying, and then I just got bored. And then I just started to do all kinds of stuff. And the reason why I didn't get to attend the graduation ceremony, so how they did it back in the islands was that when it came down to graduation time, there was maybe a month before the actual ceremony where they watched you. They watched what you did. They watched how you went to the final classes, and that's how they determine if you're going to enter, graduation ceremony or not. I know it's kind of wicked. I think it's just crazy. So there was this one teacher. I didn't like her. She didn't like me. That was okay because we understood each other. And actually, there were two of them. There was one in particular that I just couldn't bear the sight of this lady. And she said something. It was a class for food and nutrition. Now I like to eat. So this was one of my favorite classes because you got to make food, you got to eat. I mean, it was great. And we just happened to bump heads one day around the time of graduation, and she said something to me that I didn't like, and I told her off. And got called in the principal's office. She told the principal that I was rude, I was disrespectful. The principal asked me, is this true? And I was like, yeah, it's true, I don't like her, she knows this. Not a big deal. I was being honest about how I felt. And, I thought maybe my honesty would have gotten me somewhere.
No.
It didn't. The principal decided that, you know what, and this is one of the things that stuck with me on a more serious note. What the principal said to me at that moment, she said, I admire you for your honesty and the fact that you were honest about how you felt about the situation. She said, I'm still not gonna let you graduate, but she said something, I didn't care at that point. I was gonna crash that graduation, I was gonna do some really crazy stuff, but my grandma stopped me. But she said something to me, she said something that stuck with me for many, many years. She said, I admire you for your honesty, and even though I'm still not going to allow you to graduate, but she said to me, one day, you're going to be a great man. And she said, I'm going to hear about you. I didn't know what that meant at that moment. I had no idea. I'm like, does this lady even know who she's talking to? And it just so happens that there was a time, maybe a few years ago, when I was pursuing something, and I felt so, and I guess we can talk about this kind of coincides with inspiration and what inspired me. But I remember I was feeling so discouraged about something and so discouraged about pursuing this thing, and I remembered her words and what she said, and it pushed me forward to be who I am today. And so that's my high school story. It's broader than that, but we don't have enough time. But what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna open the floor, because all of these gentlemen are very well accomplished in what they do, and I know you guys have questions. I hope you're all taking notes, because we're going to have a trivia at the end of this. So we're going to open the floor. If you have questions about college and all that good stuff, please, we want to hear your questions. So the first question is from one of my the Turner crew. Yeah,
my name is Taylor.
Taylor, so you can stand.
Okay, my name is Taylor.
Would you like the mic or?
Yeah. Huh? No,
the mic or-
I don't need the mic. So my question is to Mr. Vernon Jones Sr. When did you realize that you wanted more from what you were experiencing in Brownsville projects?
Good question.
Everyone can answer this question though, but when did you realize that you wanted more?
Actually, I realized I wanted more when, I mentioned earlier my aunt, right? So she would take us places that I normally wouldn't go. She had friends that owned restaurants in Harlem and Manhattan and Midtown, and we would go to plays it was getting out of Brownsville. Once you started actually seeing what's out there, that's when you realize, wow, you know what, I kind of like this stuff. You know, I kind of like, this is kind of better than what I'm used to seeing. So it was just, you know, to get to experience something else. And I think that's on every level, no matter what level, even if you know, live a great life, but when you see something different or something that you like, it may not be about it's because of more money or anything like that. It's just something better. It's just a better quality, you know, of how you would like to live. You know, and I think that's really what it was when I was able to see more of that. That's what made me want to do more.
Thank you.
I want to answer that actually. I think I said before, you know, when going to Egypt, that was my first time out of the country at 17, and it just opened my eyes like crazy. You know, it was the first time in my life in a particular area that I felt like I belonged. And that sounds crazy, right? Because I'm American. But when I went there, they embraced me like a brother. And it was just weird. It's like, wait, hold up. This feels weird, you know? And we had the opportunity to go to one of the guys who was an alumni of my high school. His dad brought ice cream to Egypt. Oh. So he's ridiculously wealthy. We went to his crib, and he was a young dude. He was maybe in his 20s, in his late 20s, and he just had a baby. We went to his crazy penthouse with his baby and his wife, and I said, you know what? I want that's gonna be me. That's gonna be me. And that image still sticks with me to this day. And sometimes it's just getting out of that comfort zone, getting out of what you know. That really just opens your eyes to what you want out of life and what you're gonna get. You know, so that was me. I don't know. Oh, yeah.
All right, any more questions? Anybody else?
Sure.
Come on down.
My question is for Stefan.
Can you stand? Do you mind?
My question is for Stefan, and the question is, how did you get your business to Macy's and other retail stores?
I want to repeat the question.
Being that the company that I work for now, like I had stated, is a private, we do private label business. And it's actually communicating with the buyers. There's a certain way that I have to show presentations in order, I have to do certain presentations in order not to attract the business to the company. I have to do research as far as knowing who that customer is, which is a large part of my business. I deal with a lot of businesses, a lot of companies that sell garments in the Midwest, so I need to know, and down south, that's a totally different demographic. So it's about learning your customer and knowing the customer base and understanding styles and silhouettes. The same New York woman is not going to wear what the Ohio woman wears or the Florida woman wears, per se. You know, so you have to learn that. You also have to learn fabrications. I have to learn color. You know, all that takes into is a major factor. I can't sell, you know, not that New York look, you know, I mean, even though they want it, but then costing is also an issue. But it's really about knowing the customer and learning the customer profile, pretty much. I mean, that's how my business is, pretty much.
Go ahead.
Yes. Okay.
State your name.
Thank you. My name is Amaya Costley. I'm from the Bronx and I go to Harriet Truman High School. And my question is for the whole panel. What advice would you give your 9th grade self or your high school self?
Can I answer that first?
The question that I asked is, what advice would you give your 9th grade self or yourself that you were in high school?
Good question. My 9th grade self was not to be afraid. Not to be afraid. And it's okay to take the risk. And to believe in yourself. There were times where moving from a small town to the big city, I thought I knew it all, and didn't know it, didn't know anything. I was intimidated, afraid. I found myself in a school, Parsons, the new school, where I didn't grow up like they grew up. I didn't have the finances that they had. The school was a little bit of a struggle for me, and I didn't really believe in myself when I actually moved here. Just terrified of everything, terrified of communicating, terrified of talking, sharing ideas. Yeah, that's one of the big things I would have said to my high school self, not to be afraid.
Something I would say on the same note is definitely be fearless. The other thing is understand that everything anything that anybody says it's risky is really not. There's really no risk when you're chasing your dream. So if you fail, like the fear of failure, and that was one of the biggest, I found the biggest hindrance even when I got older, but is when I wrote my first book. And I feared failure and I feared success because I was scared of what if this thing actually took off? What if I actually achieved, what if I actually achieved my dreams? And that, don't be fearful of any of that because this is, it's all gonna work itself out. So yeah, just keep pushing and don't be fearful of anything.
Is that it?
Another question? Is that it? Or?
She said, I would like to hear from you. She said it's for the whole panel.
I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Being fearless. I think, I'm so happy that I had that vision to get into real estate early because I was 18, so I was your age. You know what I mean? I was in the room with millionaires. I was the youngest person in my firm that I worked for, and I was the only person of color. So what that does for you, it does a lot. It builds your confidence, and there's nobody that you can't go up to and shake their hand. If you're scared to go up and shake somebody's hand, that's a problem, and you got to work on that because that's the first thing to getting that job. It's the first thing to getting that contract. That first handshake. And that confidence that you're gonna bring, and people are gonna feel that energy. So the earlier you start, the better. There's no set time when you can start to do what you want to do. If you got a dream, you can start it today. If you want to build a technology, the resources are out there for you to start it. The only thing stopping you is you. And that's the real thing. I think before I said, we're all on a different journey. We're all on a journey, but on a journey to find ourselves. So we're constantly making mistakes, successes. We're listening to people. We're not listening to people. We're constantly figuring out our way. But don't be afraid of your way. It's your way. You're gonna have outside influences that are gonna say, "Hey, don't do that. Don't do that." But they're saying don't do that because they're projecting their fears on you. So don't let people project their fears on you. You have this idea, you wake up, it's a passion. I feel it in my stomach. It hurts, my passion. For real. And when it hurts like that, nobody can tell me, nobody. Not my dad, not my mom, not my Mastermind Connect. I love everybody. But nobody's gonna be able to tell me I can't do it.
You're in control. You're in control.
Right. So as what I would tell my 9th grade self is basically what these guys are saying is it's easy to say not to be scared and not to be fearful, but what it is the confidence. If you have the confidence, you won't be scared. And really, so I would tell my 9th grade self, understand that you are good at whatever it is you do. So in the 9th grade, what you like to do is, I think I would tell myself, just make sure you're up on everything, whether your schoolwork. And the reason that even when you go to school and you're in class and you're scared to raise your hand, you're scared that the answer may be wrong. Right? So if you studied and you know your material and you're confident, that's what the only thing that makes fear leave is study. And I'm not just talking about study books, I'm talking about study your craft, whatever it is. That's, you wanna erase fear, have the confidence, because I'm confident because I know my craft. If I sit down, even to today, if I sit down in a meeting with, you know, it could be somebody from Nike or Under Armour or whatever it is, and, you know, these are real situations, and, you know, I'm not scared because I study. I know who this guy is. I know where he went to school. I know what, you know, one guy I'm sitting down, I know he owns a vineyard, so we talk about wine. And you know what I mean? But I studied, so I can go into any place with confidence because you study. Your books, your craft, your profession, no matter what it is. If you study, that's the confidence. But that's what I would tell my 9th grade self is really, you know, just study and just be confident so you can be confident to do what you do.
I echo everything that's been said. Be fearless, be confident, but we can also be fearless and confident in the things within our comfort zone. In my 9th grade self, I would say to take the first step, right? Sometimes we're fearless, we're confident, but we don't move, right? So take the first step. The second thing I would say is figure out what makes you unique, right? Because you can be fearless, confident. If everyone's taking Spanish, you're going to take Spanish too?
No.
The question becomes, if you're going to take Spanish because that's what you want to do, or you're going to be the best at taking Spanish. Or, while everyone's taking Spanish, I'm going to take Chinese or Japanese.
Woo, yes.
What's going to make you different? What's going to make you unique? So I would say take advantage of all of the opportunities that are out there, and not just the things that's within our comfort zone.
All right, so I saw your hand and your hand. So you first, and then you, and then sure. Go ahead. You're a gentleman. Let's go.
Right for the gentleman. Let's give the gentleman a round of applause.
Okay. Hello there. My name is Cameron Presley. I also attend Harriet Truman High School in the Bronx. And this is more like a everyone question, so anyone can answer. What was the lowest moment in your life, and how did you recover from it?
Whoa.
Oh man, that was a phenomenal question because it's all about resiliency and being able to get down not 7 times and get up 8. Right, so you know, when I was 24, I had this wild idea that I was going to create a touchscreen system that transforms storefronts into touchscreens. I built it. It took me 2 years. I raised over $200,000 for it from, you know, family, friends, mentors, people who I look up to, and it didn't work out the way I wanted it to. We had clients all around the country, LA, Salt Lake City, Montreal, Toronto, all over. And I was traveling a lot. It was just my dream. It was what I was loving. It didn't work out the way we wanted it to, and I ran out of money. And at that point, I was just so low. It was just like, damn, I had this dream, and it didn't work out the way I wanted it to. And my mentors gave me money, and I'm going to them and I'm telling them I can't pay you back right now. And that really hurt because it's like you don't want to disappoint the people who love you, right? And I felt like I did. But what it was, you know, having people around you, having my dad who was able to pick me up and say, you know what, come, we'll do something together. We'll get you back going. And you know, having those people around you, it was so key. But I was able to, with that help, I was able to pay people back. And I literally maybe 2 years ago, I just got back to where I wanted to be. And it just failing feels good because when you overcome it, it's like, oh, I could do anything. Right? So it's like, I think failing fast is important because it gives you that opportunity to get back up. And you need that wherewithal inside yourself to get back up because it could tear you apart. You know, and you gotta get back up. It is what it is. You know, so yeah.
That's a great question.
Beautiful.
Great question. I did all the right things. Great grades in school, got my college degree, great career, ran one of the most successful offices, and then I got a new boss who did not think that I was doing a great job.
Oh.
and decided that she was going to remove me from my position to do something else.
Oh, no.
Shook my confidence, because I'd always been the superstar. You know, the most successful officer in the country, the whole 9 yards. She just didn't operate the way I operate. Played through that scenario, my mother, who was a maid, said to me, she did you a favor.
Oh.
After I was going through all that, 'cause again, emotionally, professionally, I'm shook. It's like, I've been doing, that's what you guys say, right? Shook. I'm trying to keep it good. But literally, the lesson for me in that was, because I was so focused on my career and the job, I started to lose myself. And that's what my mother meant when she said that. I started to lose myself. And the good news of that is, after I got through, and the people, my mentors are very, very important, who believed in me, they convinced me that, no, you're good. Your skills are sharp. This is a lesson for you in your career. Well, and the vindication was, they got rid of her and brought me back. Right? But really, my confidence in that scenario, and what I learned from that is to never lose me in any scenario. To never lose me and who I am and how I am, and that was starting to happen in my career. I was so focused on the job and the career and trying to please all the folks, I didn't show up to work as Ivo. Okay?
You just stirred up some of my past and the memories. It's like, I'm over here reliving it as we go. But I think I wanted to actually say this because I think it'll be as helpful as for me. It'll be helpful to you guys as you're leaving high school and going into college. And the lowest point was actually after probably my first semester of my freshman year, and I had we were only a couple months into school. I'm still trying to figure this thing out. In college, yes. So, first time living on your own, and you're just trying to figure it out. The professor that I started in architecture school told me, she pulled me into her office, and she told me that I think you should really reconsider your choice of your major. Now, mind you, I had already been interning for the year before, worked in an architecture firm. I knew this was what I was going to do. And she told me you should reconsider. So I'm devastated at this point because I felt like I've been in control. I've been able to create my path for my life, and here I'm at, now I'm starting it, and someone's telling me it's not for me. And eventually I called my mom. She actually didn't know what to tell me, but she was like, you know what, just, it's your choice. You can do it, you can keep going. But then later, my mentor that I used to work for the architecture firm, he ended up calling me. And he started telling me a story about his first semester in architecture school. And he told me his first presentation of his design, his professor picked up his model that he'd been working on, working for days and nights on this, and threw it across the room.
I would have thought, I'm sorry.
And he said it didn't fly. He didn't understand what that meant. And the thing about that was, I'll make it short of it, the moral of the story is that he's like, this is a weeding out process. At every level and everything you're going through, there's going to be people trying to take you down. But the key is it's a game. So if you go into the mindset, which is like a champion mindset, that everybody's coming for you, everybody's trying to tear you down, is that, okay, I see it coming. Now what am I going to do? Now I'm going to take the control back. I'm going to empower myself to say, all right, I see where you're coming with the negativity. I'm going to take advantage of that and use it to my advantage and turn. And in turn, it just allowed me to play the game right back. To the point where someone told me that she ended up losing her job. I was still good, graduated with honors, and was awarded the Alpha Rho Chi Medal for service and commitment, and it's the highest honor in the program. So it was that sort of thing that you're taking the negativity that is given us. It's gonna happen, but you find a way to play the game of life and flip it back on its head.
I'll try to answer this question the best way because it was a very good question. Moving to New York, I I had strikes already against me because I didn't know anyone. I moved here with $100 in my pocket. I did have a job, a retail job, but I kind of said that things were going to happen to me that were going to be out of my control. And just basically, how do I recover from those things? Being let go from a job, trying to adapt in school. For me, I had to figure out who I was. I mean, again, moving to New York, early 90s, still trying to figure out life itself. Not being able to finish the school that I got accepted for and moving back to Ohio for a short time, that was a little bit devastating because, again, I wasn't able to adapt well, and my nerves did get the best of me. So I had to regroup for a semester, at home, and figure out what is it that I want, and how can I be able just to continue to press on and move on and get back to the city and get back to my passion. So everything basically was a fight, As far as one of the things that my parents passing, which has really nothing, has everything to do with my education, but from that, I remembered what my parents told me, that things are possible, and I had to figure things out. So it was growing up very fast. I normally tell people that I grew up here in the city because it was just a hustle for me, So even today, I may have an appointment that won't go so well, and how can I win them back? So I have to figure things out, and I have to, and that's every day, really, that's really every day, that's pretty much.
Andre, I have one more example, I think, just from college that's interesting. Ron stirred this up. My senior year of college, professor named D.C. Reeves. That was how many years ago, right? An American philosophy course, I did a paper, and he wouldn't give me my grade. And literally my senior year, and I'm going, I'm not going to graduate, because if you fail a class in your senior year, you're not graduating.
Oh no.
And I'm like, how am I going to tell my parents I'm not graduating from college my senior year? And he ended up giving me a C on the paper. And he said to me, and I'm going to say this because I think it's important for you guys, if any other student in the class had done this paper, they would have gotten an A.
What?
All right, why?
What you mean?
But he said, you are capable of better than this.
Oh.
And that's why. But he was right. Because I didn't give him my own. I wrote the paper at 3 o'clock in the morning, turned it in at 10 o'clock. Because I told you guys, school came easy for me. And he knew that. And he said, you didn't give this your all.
Okay.
And that's why he gave me a C. Because I didn't give it 100%.
I feel like I get
Wow,
that.
I get
like
it.
that. I like
So I've heard people, I think I have a level of optimism that is like really high, right? So I explained to you, I had my own company since I was 20, and so obviously if you have your own company at 20, you already know you're gonna have a lot of downs, right? Ups and downs. But it was at one time, I had sold a company, I was, okay, a company that was doing really well. And I said, you know what, I did that, I'm ready to do something else. And then I started doing the sports, high school sports in New York City, and we had a newspaper, and I took an equity loan out of my house, and, and this thing just, I'm sticking with it, this thing's gonna work, I'm gonna make this thing work. And then the bank, we had to crash with the bank some years ago. And they just stopped my equity loan, right? And it was against my house. And so house was almost going into foreclosure. Literally, these are things that's happening. The business, just forget it. It was just really, I was struggling. I never owned a newspaper before, and I'm trying to figure out how do I get this thing back up. It was like kind of devastating, and then I had 2 cars, both of them got repossessed, right? Within a month. So, and then we had, my wife, her aunt gave us this little red car, this little, old car, and I'm driving her, and I told my wife, I said, I like this car, this is kind of nice, we should have had this before. That's that optimism. Because you know what? I know I'm not gonna stay here. But I'm thinking, you know, she knows that no matter what it is, I'm gonna say, oh, I like this. This is better than what we had. You know, we had a brand new car, and I'm driving this little red car. I don't even know the name of it. It was something. It was a Geo, and I'm driving it. One day I'm driving. I had my youngest son. I'm taking him to camp, band camp, and the hubcap fell off. You know, these are things that's happening. This is real. You know, and I got a business going, and you know, but that level of optimism, because you know what? I know I'm doing everything right. I know I'm working hard. I know, you know, so I'm not hustling around. I'm not stressed out. I'm not, because you know what? I know I'm doing everything right. And things will turn around. Because I'm confident in myself, you know, and this, you know, this has been a few times where I pretty much, you know, I had partners and did things and let them kind of take stuff from the company and we split up, but I know where I'm going. I don't know where you're going. I know where I'm going. So that's really, you know, what allows me to, like, get back up is that level of optimism. And the reason I have that, it goes way back to what I said about the confidence, about if you study your craft, you do what you're supposed to do. I'm not really looking at all of these negative things that's happening. That's really, it just, I have to go through this. That's what I'm saying in my mind. I have to go through this to get to where I'm going. But I'm not gonna go in the corner and cry and you know, and shut down, and you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna work harder. I'm gonna do a little more. I'm gonna think a little more, and I'm gonna think, what did I do wrong? See, that's the thing you have to do. You have to figure out, what did I do wrong? Now, the next time, it's gonna be that much better. You know, so, and that's really what happened. It just, things just turn around because you know what? I'm confident. I have this optimism because I'm optimistic about life because I know what I'm doing is right. I know I'm studying my craft. I know I'm doing the right thing. I know I'm not cheating anybody. And that's one thing, anybody that knows me in business, I'll get calls now from people that I've dealt with in the past, and they'll, out of the blue, hey, Vern, I have this great thing, you know, this, you know, and I want to find out if you want to be involved in it. And these sometimes are some really, really big opportunities. And I'll go in and, okay, and we'll do it. But that's from all the work I've done. That's from being honest in business. That's from, you know, knowing my craft. Anybody sits in a room with me and we're going over anything. If any of you had a business and you said, you know what, I need some ideas, consulting on this business. The first thing I would do is I would study your craft. And within like a week and a half, I know everything it is to know about your business. So now I can tell you this is what you need to do. You know, but that's my confidence. I'm so confident, and that's, you know, and that's the passion of me wanting my own business since I was a kid. That's that passion of, I'll get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and get online and say, you know what, I need to research this thing or research that thing. And that's what I do. That's what I love, you know, and that's, you know, so it's that, again, the confidence that will get you back up.
Awesome. Unfortunately, we ran out of time for questions.
Oh, wait.
So sorry. But we have a trivia thing that we're gonna do real quick. But I just want to share something with you really quickly, in terms, because I can't remember who asked that question about low point. Yeah, and you stirred up a whole lot of stuff. But I'm gonna share this really quickly, and this story is a testament of what is called resilience and what it means to get knocked down but deciding to get back up. And all of these gentlemen have shared something. One of the lowest points I've ever been in my entire 30 years of existence was December 2nd, 2013,
Oh,
Monday
the date.
Monday
at
morning.
10:45 a.m. when I watched my mother take her last breath.
Oh my God.
And it was the lowest point of my life. Why? Because 2 months after that, I became a father of twins. So I'm dealing with my mom not being here to see her first grandkids and having to shut that part of my life off because now I have to focus on being a father. And I went through months and months and months and months of depression because I couldn't understand why this was happening. Why am I going through this? What the hell is going on? And it took resilience to get back up out of that. And I say all this to say that on your journey to getting to college, to getting through the rest of high school, you're gonna have some things and maybe people and situations that may knock you down. But here's one thing, and this is not to be religious, but when God created heaven and the earth, let's use grass for an example. Whenever somebody cuts grass, God doesn't have to part the sky to come down and grow grass again. There is something that is placed on the inside of you that has the power to create and to reproduce and to not stay where you are. So I say all this to say that regardless of what you encounter, because you will encounter stuff, you will go through things, just be mindful that within you, there is something that is able to reproduce after your own kind, after what you're supposed to do. When it comes down to purpose, purpose will not leave you alone. It won't leave you alone. And when you are created for a purpose, it doesn't matter what path you take or what you go through, it'll always lead you back to the right path, and you will always rise again. All right? So that's that. That's that. Thank you for listening to that. I have trivia questions.
I don't know what the password is for your phone.
So the trivia, listen, here's how we're going to do this, right? I'm going to go with the first hand I see, and Stefan has some stuff to give away. I'm going to go with the first hand. Ma'am, you have to put your hand down.
Say
Sorry. But we're going to go with some questions. The first hand I see, you're the winner of, or whatever, if you get it right. So the first question is, what is going on? Are you guys okay? I need to split you up. Okay. Which government institution did Mr. Vernon Sr. Please put your hand down, sir. I have to complete the question. Did Mr. Vernon Sr. work for after graduating St. Francis College? Okay, go ahead. The IRS. Yes, sir, you're correct. You're correct. Awesome. You are? Okay, good. Second question, really quickly. From which country did Ivo's parents immigrate from?
I saw your hand, you young lady. Yeah. Huh?
Yeah.
Correct. Oh my God.
Just went away.
I got it. Sorry. Okay, question number 3. Which country did Vernon Jr. travel to after?
You know what? Put your hands out, because I knew what y'all were going to do. This question, this is good. These questions are good. This is tricky. Now I'm going to see if y'all are listening, because I know what the answer some of y'all are thinking. Put your hand down.
Here we go again, right? Which country did Vernon Jr. travel to after he visited Egypt?
Okay, me?
Yeah.
Go.
Oh, Costa Rica.
Boom.
You're correct. Good stuff. All right. Okay. All right. Okay, question number 4. Ron, who's right here, from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, studied at which university and graduated with what degree?
Oh my God, wait.
Only young lady here. You got it.
That's good. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, so question number 5. Ivo traveled to Indianapolis to participate in which competition?
The gray sweater.
The gray sweater with the
Hand up.
Say that again? No, incorrect. I'm sorry.
It was a conference for FBLA, right? Future.
You got it. It's correct, actually. You said that?
FBLA Future Business America.
Where was that? Okay. Never mind. Anyway, I failed everything here. Anyway, so question number 6. Stefan serves as the head designer of a major ladies apparel firm in New York City. Name at least 3 companies this firm services.
Alright, it was
3. Get it wrong.
Macy's,
Uh-huh.
TJ Maxx.
Uh-huh.
Yo, stop playing.
No, stop!
No.
She said it. Just go. Say it.
Macy's, TJ Maxx,
Burger King.
Yo, stop playing with me.
Gotta go.
7-Eleven. 7-Eleven.
Gotta go. Time. 4, 3, 2, 1.
In the white t-shirt.
White t-shirt. Come on. Come on. Yeah.
Macy's, JCPenney, and TJ Maxx.
You got it. So.
7-Eleven.
Wow.
This one right
Wow.
here. Who says 7-Eleven?
And now for the bonus question. I don't know what y'all gonna get with the bonus question, but that's for him to figure out. But bonus question. Vernon Sr. spoke about the importance of common sense. The quote, "Common sense is not so common," was stated from which historical figure? You've been.
My mom just said this.
No. History.
Please.
Wrong.
Please.
Who? No. Who? Where's the young man? You got it. So, thank you, Voltaire. So guys, thank you again for participating. Thank you for enthusiasm. Thank you for listening to us, and thank you for paying attention. It speaks volumes. So I'm going to hand over to.
I just have
Yes.
one quote that I like to end.
One more quote, and we're going to end.
I like one quote that I end all of my sessions with. And I want you guys to listen to this and write it down. Oh my God. Because everything we talked about today starts in here, right? So, be mindful of your thoughts. For your thoughts become your words. Your words become your actions. Your actions become your character, and your character determines your destiny. So in other words, what you think is what you speak, what you speak is what you do is who you are, and who you are determines where you go.
Wow. And your attitude determines your altitude. Altitude. Anyway, listen, this is Jamaican and altitude. I vote. But anyway, thank you guys again, and I'm going to hand it to you.
Wonderful job, y'all. We're so impressed. Please give a round of applause for our wonderful panel. Okay, so now we will be moving on to lunch. Please use this opportunity. Don't pack yet. Hold up.
I'm hungry.
Yes. So we are going to use this opportunity to be able to mingle and ask questions to the Mastermind Connect panel here. But also, please note, once we exit, we are going to take a group photo with everyone. So.